Hello, Argonauts, and welcome to another vlog. It's been a while, they're intermittent at this point in time, but thank you for tuning in and watching me blather for a few more minutes. Um, uh, Facebook page is doing pretty good. Thank you for going, you're still kind of going, checking things out, leaving some comments, leaving thumbs up. I still get new people liking the page all the time, so they're discovering the videos, wanting to interact with the community. And that's great. I will be very busy and this might be the last video for a while. Because as you all know, I'm moving and blah, blah, blah. But I hope to come back in April or May and start making stuff again and being more active. So why am I here today? Well, I'm in the midst of final exams here at my university for the last time. And I had two students come by today. And they're sort of typical of Japanese college students, and so I wanted to share with you a little bit about that. And as you can see from the title, I think I'm going to title this Being a Teacher, Hard Ass versus Creampuff, or Strict versus Softy, or something like that. Okay. First of all, I should caveat and say I never got my teaching credential in America. Right after I graduated from university, I came over and did the JET program. And you don't have to be a trained teacher to be an ALT. So I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that when you train to be a teacher in the United States and other places as well, like Canada, the UK, anywhere, you probably have to take some classes in child psychology, depending on what grade level you want to teach, et cetera, et cetera. And there is some classroom work you have to do. You have to go and do, I want to use the word field work, but that's not in-school training, in-school service. I don't know, where you're actually like maybe paired up with an older, teacher that's been doing it a while, and you go and you do your student teaching. I think that's the word I'm looking for. So obviously I've got a lot of experience now under my belt, but when you're an ALT, you're never responsible for grades. Almost never. You might devise your own type of worksheet one time, and the teacher will be like, okay, well, yeah, grade it, whatever. But, you're certainly not responsible for their cumulative English grade for the semester or the year or anything like that. Well, obviously, if you become a university professor like I have, then yes, you are. The buck stops here. You are responsible for making the lessons, implementing the lessons, giving the lessons, and grading whatever you decide to use to see if they actually acquired the knowledge and can apply it, etc., etc. So that is where it comes down to, what kind of teacher do you want to be? Now, I think if I were in America and I could have some, easily written guidelines in English, of course, for my American students that I knew my students could understand, and I could send them out emails from time to time and, update them and blah, blah, blah. And I knew that they were getting it, unless they're just, Jeff Spicoli or something like that. Then I think I would be a much stricter teacher. And I think, especially like if I were in high school, you want to kind of mold them a little bit still and be like, this is due, this assignment is due this day and you've got to give it to me or you get 0, type of thing. So I'm much more laid back in college, but I still feel like if you're absent from a class, in one of my classes, it's your responsibility. You're 18, 19 years old now. To ask a classmate or come see me or go onto the shared computer site we have on a thing called Moodle and check, what was the homework? What did we do? What's due next time? And almost none of my students do it. In Japan, unfortunately, a lot of the grade is based just simply around attending. Attendance counts for a lot. And almost all the English classes here at my university are taught by Gaikokujin. I'm trying to think if there's no, in fact, all of them except one is taught by a Japanese woman, but she lived in Australia for like 10 years and she's practically Gaikokujin. So she teaches 2. So 8 out of the 10 required English classes for freshmen and sophomores are taught by foreign-born native English speakers. And we all kind of get together and we have our little meetings from time to time. And we decided that out of the 30 classes, there's 15 weeks in a semester, 2 classes a week. So that's 30 classes that the students would be able to miss 5. That would be the permissible limit. After that, they would, they can't, they fail. They can't take the final. They get what's in Japanese called houki, which means they abandon the class. They stopped coming. But the university actually allows them, the actual strict university policy is they can miss 10 classes and still get credit for that course. So they can miss a third of their classes. So we're in the kind of thing where we want to enforce this kind of, English class idea and what they're able to get away with in their other classes. But most of the kids, they realize that that's our idea and they stick to it. And, you only get a few kids that go over 5 absences anyway. So it's not that big a deal, but it does get down to, okay, well, he was absent 5 times, now he's been absent a 6. Are you really going to fail him for that 1 over the limit type of thing? So that comes up, it's how strict are you going to be about that? But the main thing is that what happens now in this final week, it's finals week now, is that the kids, I start getting caught up on all my grading. I must admit, I'm bad. I procrastinate. So I'll have stacks of papers. Here's a plot pyramid book report, and you can kind of see how many of them. There's like 45 here, and I still haven't graded them. And these guys take their final test on Wednesday. Today's Monday. It's Super Bowl Monday. I haven't watched the game yet. Don't tell me what happens. No, I'm going to go home and watch it. I DVR'd it. It's live at like 8 a.m. here on Monday. So I had to work. So I'm getting caught up. I'm almost completely caught up, and everything. All their this is like my attendance card thing, and they get points if they're absent, and blah blah blah. So I'm getting caught up on all that, and their grade is starting to form. They can see how many points they have. They got to get 60 points, 60% to pass. So some of them are like, whoa, I'm at 43%. And the final is only worth 15 points, so, they start to freak out. Although most kids, if they got a 58 or 59, I would give them the 1.5 or 2 points, whatever they need to pass. And again, we're going to come back to this theme. I'm a softie. So, one kid came today, and he had done none of the online homework all semester. There was like 3 writing assignments that were worth 4 points each. So that's like 12 or so points, and a couple vocabulary quizzes, and they're all on this thing called Moodle. You go online. I set up a due date, and they can do it any time of the day they want. I always give them, they can redo it like once if it's a quiz. They can resubmit if they put it in, and it's an essay, and they reread it and think, oh, that's terrible. I want to redo it. That's fine, as long as they do it before the deadline. It's really cool. It's easy. The quizzes get automatically graded because obviously there's a right or wrong answer. The essays, I go in when I have time and grade them and give them points. He had done none of it. So he had like 29 points, and he's got to get to 60. And the only thing left for him to do was his final exam on Wednesday, which, like I said, is worth 15 points. He'd already done his speaking test. And I mean, there was a few other things that I don't think he did particularly well on. So I mean, it's the 30 points is, he was absent like 5 times, blah blah blah. So, what do you do? He comes into my office. He's standing there. Do you just go, hey, we'll call him, Mark. No Japanese person named Mark, by the way. Mark, what, you're gonna fail. You're gonna get fuka. Fuka is a failure kanji in Japanese grading. And he's like, oh. And then he just stands there and it's like watching over him and he's waiting for me to like bail him out. And so I'm waiting for them to step up and go, well, what can I do? Or, oh, I'm so sorry, or, blah, blah, blah. And they almost never do. And this holding their hand and helping them through life kind of gets to me a little bit at this age when they're 18 or 19. And it's because they're so mollycoddled when they're in junior high and high school. Japanese kids generally don't ever fail. They're always passed, socially promoted up through the ranks. they never fail on merit almost ever. So it's tough when they get to they get to college, and then they run into a Western teacher who has different standards. And so this class in particular, though, is like a remedial redo class. So he's already failed English once for whatever reason. Maybe something went on in his life, something happened in his family. Maybe he just got really lazy and said "fuck you, school." I don't know. But so he's now a junior, and he's taking English again. So if I were to fail him again, he'd have to take it again as a senior. And I'm feeling like, is that really helping anyone? And so all kinds of context comes into these decisions. And it's tough. They don't really teach you how to deal with this when you're training to be a teacher. And I didn't even get the training that maybe would have helped. So, it's like, how tough do you want to be? If I'm like, put my foot down and go, dude, you just blew off the course. I'm not going to help you pass in the final few days. Sorry. It's hard for me to be that hard-hearted, especially when they're standing right there. And you can't really then have that conversation with them that you want to have in English, like, well, what happened? Why didn't you do it? Blah, 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 because they can't understand you. And, then they start just rapid-fire Japanese back, and I can't understand that so well sometimes. So, So basically what I did was I opened all the old assignments. I gave him 5 old assignments, 3 essays and 2 quizzes. And I said, okay, all of these now are open until Friday. Friday is when I want to put my grades in, so you have until 3 o'clock on Friday. You've got to take your final exam. You need to do well. You got to get like 12 out of 15 points. So I don't know what percent that is. Somebody do the math. But basically you've got to pass the final exam, which is a computer final exam. It's not that difficult. So you got to get some decent points on the final exam, and you do all this homework. That should just get you about 30 points, and I'll pass you. And he's like, oh, okay. He was just so happy. And I'm like, okay. But, if you don't do it or, something happens, whatever, that's on you. And he's like, okay. The other kid is a kid in my freshman class. And generally all my freshmen pass because they're ready to go with school, and it's all still new to them, and they're still kind of doing what they're told. They haven't started to flunk off a little bit. But they a little bit do in the second semester because they start to catch on. And so this guy, again, didn't come to class a lot and everything, and he's got, like 25 points. So then he had his final last week, and the scheduling and everything, and then this week, his class is doing their speaking tests. So he has his speaking test on Wednesday, but he's already taken his final computer test last week. But out of every kid in my classes, he didn't come. So I thought, well, that's it. That's the nail in the coffin. There's no way he's going to pass now. So he runs up to my office breathless, second period, because the class started at 9 a.m. and finished at 10:30. And it was first period of the day, and he didn't show up. And he comes to my office about 10:40. Oh, I overslept. He's trying to tell me in English what he said. I said, just tell me in Japanese. Blah, 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 blah. So he tells me in Japanese. And yeah, basically he just overslept. It wasn't like he was dying, his car didn't start or whatever. He just basically slept in and didn't come to the final. And so I'm like, I was about to say his real name. I'm like, David, I'm like, dude, I don't even, the quiz is done now. So, and I didn't have time right then to sit him down and let him take the quiz because I had other things I had to do that day, and I had, more classes in the afternoon. I'm like, you can go and now talk to any friend and they will all tell you the answers. And I said, so that means I have to try to either make an entirely different quiz for you or something. So I said, look, if you do your speaking test and, all your other work that I'm grading now gets you to, within, you need about 45, 46 points. So if you did really well on the final, which is worth 15 points, you'd get up to 60. If you get up toward that 45 point marker, then I will figure out some way to give you a re-chance on the test. I'm so nice. Why am I so nice? Other teachers just be like, nope, you missed your chance. You didn't come to the final. What do you think? So, what would you do? What would you do? Would you let this kid have another shot? So basically, he's going to come and do a speaking test on Wednesday. I will have graded everything by Wednesday, and then I'm going to look at his points. And right now, it's looking like he's probably going to have like 43 points. If, he gets about what I think he'll probably get about a 7 or 8 on his speaking test out of 10. He's not the brightest bulb in the racket or whatever they say. But again, he's in the low. I teach the lowest level, entry level freshman course. He just doesn't give a flip about English. He's way more interested in chatting up the girls and being on his smartphone. He pays no attention in class. I mean, he deserves to fail. Trust me. But it's the kind of thing where, then they come in and they give you those doe eyes, and you're like, so how much do you let them off the hook at the very end, or do you want to try to teach them a lesson? Now, versus the other kid who's already a junior and going to be a senior, and he's already, trying to job hunt and get on with his life. This kid is a freshman. He has plenty of time to retake this class. So if it comes down to it, I will probably fail him and not feel so bad. Also, I'm not going to be here next year. See, every other time if I did that, I was around the student, I might have that student again, blah, blah, blah. But now, I'm not going to be here. Luckily, most of my students are doing fine and they're passing. But every now and then you get one and you're just like, well, do I want to, one of the teachers is always here like, failure is a lesson too, it's a chance to try again, it's in those platitudes. And some of me wants to feel like that, and other times I'm like, I just, how much value is there in them retaking this course? How much are they going to learn, Are they going to learn just the intrinsic, like, hey, I shouldn't fuck up in the future, I need to pay more attention? They're just going to sit in that retake class because I've taught that class and just be resentful the whole time, be like, I shouldn't be here, god damn Jason, and like I said, for a change, I won't be here, so, because I've had to teach that repeat class and get students that I failed like the previous semester in that. It's not good. So anyway, that's what I was dealing with a little bit today. Lots of grading, lots of I found like 4 kids turned in a book report late into my office and it went on a pile and I put them in my sophomore folder. And so they all got 0s. None of them said anything though, which was weird because you would think they would be like, hey, I did that report. Where's my paper? When I handed them back. But I found them today, and so I gave them all retroactive points, of course. And, none of them were in almost failing. So, anyway, okay, this is 18 minutes of a ramble. It's interesting that the dilemma you face sometimes when you teach. And there's different, you teach information and you teach, life a little bit, and then you also have to, teach these kind of, I don't know, life lessons, I guess you would call it, just like, hey, you didn't do what you were supposed to do here. And then I had, I think I told this story. I had 2 kids that cheated on a paper. And the teacher, my Japanese supervisor, was like, you cannot fail them for that. You can give them a 0 on the paper and blah, blah, blah. And we had this whole thing because I was really upset. And one kid's, almost going to get, the top kanji you can get is called yu. Yu is 80% to 100 in Japanese. Then you got, ryo, which is like 70 to 80. And then you've got ka, which is 60 to 70. So there's like 3 grades you can get. The kanji comes up on the report card. So it's almost like an A is 80 to 100. It's not 90 to 100 like it is in America. And he's like, if he gets a decent speaking test score, he would get that top kanji. And I almost feel like I shouldn't give him that top kanji just out of, not spite, but just because he did cheat on that one thing. The other kid that cheated is not a good student at all, and he's going to just barely get ka. So I feel like, but they both passed. I reprimanded them a bunch, and then they came back, and they've been better students since then. But anyway, just all the things you have to deal with when you teach. And this will really change. I will be in charge of my classes at my new job, but it'll be much more interesting, I think. And the ramifications of, the scores I give could be much more important. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna, just before it gets to 20 minutes, bye, see you guys, thank you for watching, peace. Hopefully more soon, but you never know. Take care, bye.